By the time I returned from burying my mother, there was a message waiting for me in my inbox. Please vacate your workspace by the end of the day, Mark. Security will escort you out. Human resources will handle severance. No warning, no conversation. It's just a digital slap to the face. 4 days. That's all I took. 4 days of approved bereavement leave granted by the same executive who'd now had me erased with a single line of cold corporate efficiency. My name is Mark Ellison. I'm 41 years old, and until precisely 7:42 this morning, I was the senior operations strategist for Karen Freight Systems, the largest logistics hub in Columbus, Ohio. I gave everything to that company: 60-hour weeks, holidays missed, relationships sacrificed. And now, for choosing to say goodbye to the woman who raised me alone, I'm being discarded like expired inventory. The office was still empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed above as I sat frozen, staring at the email. My mother's eulogy still echoed in my ears. And now this, a digital execution with no chance for dignity. I wasn't just a name on Karen's payroll. I was the engine behind their most profitable division for nearly 7 years. As senior strategist, I rebuilt fractured logistics chains, salvaged high-risk contracts, and transformed underperforming branches into lean, profitable machines. My name was attached to every major success in the Eastern Corridor. But more than that, I built a culture, a team, a second family. We celebrated births and battled through divorces together. We shared late-night coffee before product launches and clinked beers after quarterly wins. My office walls weren't adorned with corporate awards. They were covered in sticky notes from junior analysts thanking me for mentoring them and candid photos from warehouse visits where I worked with crews half my age. There was even a rubber chicken on my bookshelf, an inside joke from my team, after I pulled off a cross-country reroute during a snowstorm that saved the company over $2 million. That chicken was more than a gag. It was proof of a bond few departments ever achieve. And yet, all of that, the people, the late nights, the sacrifices, meant nothing when I stepped away to mourn the one woman who taught me loyalty. My value, it seemed, had an expiration date, and it ended the moment I chose grief over grinding. I didn't rage, I didn't slam drawers or march down the hall to confront Terrence Morgan, the company's new chief operating officer, who signed the termination line. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, listening to the low hum of the building's HVAC and the muted echo of nothingness in an office that hadn't fully come alive yet. The fluorescent lights above flickered slightly, as if unsure whether to stay on. I stared at the words again, like they could change if I read them differently. But they didn't. Please vacate your workspace by the end of the day, Mark. A single sentence that erased 7 years. I grabbed my phone, snapped a photo of the email, and forwarded it to my address. Then I stood up and opened the drawer where I kept my Thingsa steel travel mug from the Denver Logistics Summit. A keychain shaped like a former intern sent Ohio I once promoted. And that damn rubber chicken. I took my time, wrapping each item with quiet reverence, not for the job, but for what it once represented. Half my desk was cleared when others started trickling in around 7:45. Olivia from Data Analytics was the first to notice. "Mark, are you moving?" she asked, stopping mid-sip of her coffee. "I've been let go," I said, flat but firm. She blinked. "You're kidding. Why? You were just in the strategy briefing last week." I held up the email on my phone. Her jaw tightened. "You took 4 days off to bury your mother, and now they're cutting you?" I nodded once. Grief doesn't fit Karen's Q4 timeline. Soon, others gathered quietly at first. Ellis from procurement, Tanya from fulfillment. Then, my core team, Ben, Erica, Jamal, and Chloe, stood stunned, processing the scene like they'd stumbled onto a crime. Erica looked ready to cry. Ben's fists clenched at his sides. "You led the DeLuca recovery," Jamal said. "Without you, that deal would have collapsed." I didn't respond. What could I say that would make it make sense? And then, as if summoned by tension, Terrence appeared in a navy suit, polished cufflinks. "There is no soul in sight. I need everyone back at their desks," he said, his voice sharp and sterile. "There's work to be done." No one moved. "Now," he barked. Slowly, reluctantly, my team dispersed at each, giving me a glance that said everything corporate silence refused to. Terrence stepped closer. "This didn't have to be so public," he said through a clenched jaw. I met his stare. "Then you probably shouldn't have fired me by email while I was burying my mother." His lips twitched, but he said nothing. I lifted my box and walked out without looking back. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Sometimes it means precision. The walk to HR felt like a silent execution. No one made eye contact as I passed just the soft clicking of keyboards and the artificial brightness of overhead LEDs buzzing like a bad omen. When I stepped into the glass-paneled human resources office, everything felt sterile white walls, corporate-approved artwork, and a potted plant dying quietly in the corner. Behind the desk sat Lena Barlow, HR director, who recently transferred from corporate in Dallas. She looked up, her expression tight but rehearsed, the kind of face that had delivered dozens of terminations and convinced herself they were procedures, not betrayals. "Mark," she said, gesturing to the seat across her, "I am truly sorry." She slid a thick folder toward my severance paperwork, North Dakota A clauses, non-compete reminders. "This isn't personal, just unfortunate timing." "Timing?" I echoed. 4 days to bury my mother, and now I'm obsolete? She cleared her throat and glanced toward the hallway. The directive came from above, executive realignment post-acquisition. The board signed off on department consolidations. Her voice dropped slightly. It wasn't unanimous for what it's worth. I flipped through the papers. 2 weeks' pay, a waiver, and a 6-month clause forbidding me from working with any direct competitors within 500 miles. "Interesting," I muttered. I gave this company nearly a decade, built its Midwest operations from nothing, but a 4-day funeral made me dispensable? Lena didn't answer. Instead, she offered a carefully folded sympathy card across the desk. "From the department," she said. "A few people signed it." I didn't touch it. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened the email from Terrence Morgan, and placed it face up between us. "This is how it was delivered," I said quietly. "No warning, no conversation, just this." Lena's eyes shifted. "We didn't know it would come through that way." "You didn't know," I repeated softly, "but you let it stand." She hesitated. "Off the record, this isn't right. If you ever choose to take action—" "I won't," I interrupted, "but I won't forget it either." I left the folder untouched, stood up with my box in hand, and gave the HR department one last glance-o of anger, but of clarity. The kind that changes how you walk through the world. As I stepped outside with the cardboard box pressed against my ribs, the chill of early October cut through my coat. Downtown Columbus was already pulsing to life cars honking, people rushing, the world spinning like nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had. I sat in my car and stared out through the windshield, hands resting on the steering wheel, motionless. For the first time in over a decade, I had nowhere to be on a Monday morning. That thought hit harder than the termination itself. Not because I feared unemployment, but my identity had been entangled in the grind meetings, metrics, momentum for so long. Now it was just silence. My phone buzzed a photo. My mom and I were at the reservoir last fall. She wrapped her arm around me, eyes squinting from the sunlight, wearing that ridiculous floppy hat I used to make fun of. I could still hear her voice as we stood by the water's edge that day. "Mark," she said, tapping the side of her head, "the current will always try to carry you, but baby, don't let it sweep you away. You've got to anchor yourself." She wasn't just talking about water. She talked about moments like this, when the world forgets your humanity and companies replace loyalty with spreadsheets when you're punished for loving someone enough to grieve them properly. And I remembered what she did next. She tossed a flat rock into the water. It skipped 6 times before vanishing. "See that?" she said. "Stillness first, then power." I looked at the phone in my hand, her smile frozen in pixels. I made a quiet promise at that moment. I wouldn't beg to be let back in. I wouldn't waste energy on revenge, but I would rebuild. Not with noise, with intention. And like that rock, I'd move the water without losing my center. I didn't touch my resume that week. I didn't fire off angry emails or rant on LinkedIn. Instead, I listened, I watched, I waited, and my phone didn't stop vibrating. The first message came from Chloe. "They've already messed up the quarterly forecast. They can't access the templates you built." Then Jamal. "We miss your eyes on the Dixon rollout. It's chaos." By Friday, I'd heard from every member of my former team. Not one of them was reaching out with gossip. They were looking for grounding, for direction. And although I was no longer their title leader, they still saw me as something more than a former employee. They saw me as the anchor. I didn't respond with bitterness. I responded with clarity. And when my phone rang that Sunday afternoon, I didn't hesitate to answer. "Mark, it's Elena Carlisle, CO of Northbridge Transit Logistics. You and I spoke briefly at the Nashville Expo last year." I remembered her well-sharp mind. Straight talker, a reputation for building culture, not just chasing margins. I heard what happened at Karen, she continued. I'd like to meet. We've got expansion plans in the Midwest, and I've been looking for someone who understands operations and people. We met the next morning in a quiet cafe near downtown Columbus. She arrived in jeans, a navy blazer, zero entourage, and zero ego. I'm building something leaner, smarter, people, first. And honestly, Mark, I want someone like you leading the charge in Ohio, she said. I didn't flinch. What about my non-compete? I asked, watching her reaction. She smiled. Already reviewed it. Karen's legal team drafted a clause so wide it's practically unenforceable in-state. We've had our attorneys ready for this conversation. That was the moment I felt the tide shift. But I didn't accept not yet, because if I came back, I'd come with a purpose, not for the job, for the mission. Here's my ask, I told her. If any of my former team applies here, I want them given real consideration. No red tape, just their merit. Elena didn't blink. If they're anything like you, we'd be lucky to have them. I gave it 48 hours. I used that time to think, walk by the reservoir, and reread my mom's old letters. And then I said yes. Director of Regional Strategy for Northbridge, Ohio Division. Higher pay, full autonomy, executive-level access, and, more importantly, a clean slate with the right people at the helm. I didn't make an announcement, I just let the word trickle through the grapevine. By the following weekend, I was sitting at a brewery in German Village, quietly sipping a porter while Chloe, Jamal, Erica, and Ben filtered in, one by one. They didn't talk about revenge. They spoke of exhaustion, about Karen's internal confusion, about how, in just 10 days, they'd burned through 2 interim leads who couldn't decipher the systems I left behind. Chloe leaned forward, lowering her voice. We heard you've resurfaced. I smiled. Northbridge. Are they hiring? Erica asked, her voice tinged with something more than curiosity. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence speak first. Then, they're expanding. I can't make promises, but if you apply, I'll vouch for what you bring. Jamal reached into his backpack and pulled out a manila folder. We already did, all 4 of us, last night. That night, I walked home under the dim orange glow of street lamps, and for the first time since the funeral, I felt something resembling peace. Not because I had moved on from Karen, but because I was moving towards something better. By Monday morning, all 4 had interviews scheduled. By Friday, 2 offers had been made. By the following Wednesday, all 4 had accepted. And it didn't stop there. Word spread like wildfire quiet, steady, undeniable. People weren't just leaving Karen. They were choosing something else. Something real. And every time someone asked, "Why are you leaving?" they didn't say, "Because of Mark." They said, "Because of how they treated him." That's the part Terrence never understood. You can delete someone from a payroll system, but you can't delete what they meant to the people they led. You can terminate the title, but you can't erase the trust. The Monday after my official onboarding at Northbridge, my phone rang at 7:12 a.m. sharp. Caller ID. Alexia Dunn, former VP of Operations at Karen Freight, is scrambling to contain the fallout. "Mark," she said, voice stiff with corporate strain, "we've received 6 resignation notices, effective immediately, all from your former team. Chloe, Jamal, Ben, and Erica are from different branches. Care to comment?" I took a slow breath. "I don't work for Karen anymore, Alexia." "Yes," she snapped, "but you are working for Northbridge, and they're all applying there." I didn't deny it. People make career decisions every day. Perhaps you should ask why your best talent is walking out. A pause, then quieter. "Terrence pushed for your dismissal without board consensus. I wasn't informed until after. We're trying to stabilize." "Too late," I said. "You can't reverse what loyalty rebuilds elsewhere." Later that day, I met with my team again, this time not in a bar or cafe, but in a Northbridge conference room with glass walls, bright light, and chairs that didn't squeak when you leaned in. They sat across from me, nervous, hopeful, defiant. "We're in," Chloe said. "Karen's a ghost ship now. No direction, no voice. People are walking on eggshells." Ben nodded. "They froze the Dixon account. No one knows who's even managing logistics. And the Atlanta warehouse? They're threatening walkouts." I listened, silent but locked in. "Mark," Jamal added, "we didn't come because you offered us jobs. We came because we trust you. You gave us room to grow. You listened. You let us matter." I looked around the table. These weren't just former employees. They were survivors of a broken system tired of being silenced, ready to build something that wouldn't burn them out. I can't promise you titles, I said slowly. But I can promise purpose. You'll be heard here. You'll be valued. And you'll help shape what Karen never allowed. They all nodded. By Friday, all 6 had signed contracts. It wasn't a coup. It was a quiet exedusa protest without picket signs, a revolution measured in onboarding emails. And Karen? They didn't just lose a team. They lost what made that team stay. The email came on a Thursday morning subject line. Urgent request. Conversation requested. Alexia Dunn. I stared at it for a second. Then, I opened it. Mark? Given recent developments, Karen would like to explore a possible reinstatement. I'm available to speak at your earliest convenience. Alexia. I didn't respond right away. I finished my coffee, led our weekly huddle with the Northbridge, Ohio team, reviewed logistics projections for the McAllister account, and watched Chloe mentor a new hire with the same calm presence I once saw in her when she was starting. At 3:04 p.m., I called her back. Mark, Alexia answered instantly. Her voice was strained, overly formal. Thank you for calling. I want to be transparent with you. There's been an internal reevaluation. The board is aware of how your departure unfolded and of the domino effect that followed. The domino effect was a cute phrase. They lost 7 core employees. The Dixon account had officially pulled out. The Atlanta distribution center unionized within 2 weeks. And now clients were asking why a quarter of Karen's Midwest team had moved to Northbridge in under a month. Terrence acted without proper consultation, Alexia continued. He's been placed on administrative leave pending review. We're restructuring leadership across multiple departments. I stayed silent. Let the tension breathe. We'd like to offer you your former role back at a 15% salary increase and a formal public apology. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the exposed beams on my office ceiling. That's not enough, I said. We're prepared to match Northbridge's offer, she added quickly, even exceed it. I smiled slow, controlled. It's not about the money, Alexia. Then what would it take? Her voice cracked at the edges. I let the silence stretch just enough before answering. Time travel, I said. Back to the moment I buried my mother and your leadership team decided that mourning made me expendable. The line went quiet. Mark, I didn't approve of your termination, she said, softer now. Things would have gone differently if I had been in the loop. Then maybe ask yourself why someone in your position wasn't even consulted about eliminating the head of Midwest strategy. She didn't respond. You can't fix a leadership problem by tossing money at the consequence, I continued. You fix it by not dehumanizing people in the first place. I understand, she said eventually. For what it's worth, I wish we'd done better. I nodded to myself, even though she couldn't see me. So do I. I ended the call without another word. 20 minutes later, Elena Carlisle walked into my office holding 2 files. You should see this, she said, laying them down. Karen just lost their contract with Pinnacle Produce. They're bleeding clients, and HR's drowning in exit interviews. I raised an eyebrow. Damage control mode? More like survival mode, Elena replied. Meanwhile, your team? Highest onboarding success rate in the entire company. The board's noticing. The next day, I received a letter, not an email, but a certified envelope delivered to my office with my name handwritten in black ink. Inside was a 1-page acknowledgement from Karen's legal team, wrongful termination admittance, and a settlement proposal. No litigation is required. It's just a quiet closing of a very loud chapter. I read it once. I folded it and filed it away. Later that night, I joined Jamal, Erica, and Ben for a drink at a rooftop bar overlooking downtown Columbus. The air was crisp. The city lights shimmered on the surface of the river below. Did you hear? Erica said, raising her glass. They're restructuring Karen's entire Midwest leadership team. Jamal laughed. Guess losing us wasn't in their forecast model. I clinked my glass gently against theirs. They didn't just lose us, I said. They lost who we were when we believed in them. That's the part no spreadsheet can measure. And no apology can ever be repurchased. By the end of the quarter, Karen wasn't just bleeding staff, they were hemorrhaging contracts. The McClellan Group pulled their national freight coordination. Blue State Foods withdrew all Midwestern routing. And Pinnacle Produce Me, former crown jewel, had quietly signed with Northbridge after hearing I was leading the transition team. From the outside, it looked like business turbulence. But those who had lived inside Karen knew better. It wasn't the market. It was the culture. The recklessness of one ego-driven decision had triggered a chain reaction too fast to contain. Meanwhile, at Northbridge, something else was happening. Our division, which had been a quiet experiment on paper, began outperforming legacy markets. In just 3 months, we achieved a 28% increase in route efficiency, cut delivery errors by half, and secured 4 major accounts, 3 of which were once Karen's. Elena called me into the executive boardroom one morning, smiling in that rare, earned way. "You've turned the Ohio division into the strongest operational unit in the company," she said. "We'd like to expand your oversight, Midwest Regional Director, effective immediately." I didn't answer right away. I thought of my team, how Jamal was now mentoring junior analysts, and how Chloe had restructured entirely the inventory forecasting model. How Ben, once quietly overlooked, had become our most trusted point person for client renewals. I nodded slowly. "As long as they come with me." Elena's smile widened. "That's why we're giving you the autonomy to build your bench. However, you see fit." By that Friday, I was sitting in a town hall in Chicago, presenting the Northbridge Midwest expansion plan to the senior executive team. Not as the guy who'd once been fired by email, but as the architect of a recovery that turned into a revolution. Back at HQ, I walked past the framed mission statement near reception, which I used to think was just decorative fluff. Now, it felt real. Because we weren't just moving freight anymore, we were moving people out of systems that failed them and into places where they could thrive. And somewhere in all that motion, the power had shifted. Not with force, but with focus. And not by tearing anything down, but by building something no one wanted to leave. Exactly 3 months since I walked out of Karen with a cardboard box in my arms, I opened the door to my office at Northbridge and found a cake sitting on my desk. Frosted in navy blue and silver, it read, "Independence Day, Team Ellison." I chuckled, not because it was funny, but because it was perfect. The lights flickered on, and Chloe, Ben, Erica, Jamal, and others entered. All are smiling, all thriving. There was a new energy in them now. Not just the relief of having escaped something toxic, but the quiet pride of building something better. "You're stuck with us now," Ben said, handing me a fork. "I've been stuck with you for years," I replied. "I just never had this good of lighting." We sat around the table in the break room, eating cake and swapping stories, some old, some recent. Erica talked about onboarding the new Texas team. Jamal teased Ben about a scheduling glitch that accidentally rerouted soy milk to a butcher shop. Laughter echoed off the walls like music that didn't need speakers. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from Elena. "Northbridge named the Midwest Division our #1 unit company-wide. The board is reviewing options to replicate your leadership structure nationwide." I looked at my team and read the message out loud. They erupted into cheers, but I just smiled. Not because of the ranking, not because of the recognition, but because I knew what had built it. Trust, alignment, belief. Later that night, I got home and found a small package waiting for me. No return address. Inside was a ceramic mug I'd left at Karen, wrapped in tissue and a folded note in careful handwriting. "Rescued this from your old desk. I thought you might want it back. Karen officially shutters next week. L. Barlow." I held the mug for a moment. It wasn't valuable, but it meant something. It was proof that even in the mess, someone had seen the pieces worth saving. I placed it beside the framed photo of my mother at the reservoir, her smile still steady. We didn't destroy Karen. We outgrew it. And in doing so, we built something that mattered. Something that proved leadership isn't about titles or corner offices, about how people feel when they work beside you. 6 months after stepping into Northbridge as an outsider with a bruised heart and a box of memories, I was named Vice President of Midwest Operations. It didn't come with a marching band or a press release. Just a quiet handshake from Elena and a direct message from the board. "Whatever you're doing, Mark, keep doing it." My team had grown from 7 to 40. Chloe now led the cross-regional analysis. Jamal oversaw operational redesign in St. Louis. Erica worked hand-in-hand with the legal department to rewrite employee policy across 4 states. These weren't just promotions. They were testimonies to the environment we built, tone where growth didn't mean sacrificing your soul and leadership didn't come at the cost of your humanity. And then, one afternoon, an email arrived, subject line, "Lunch?" It was from Alexia Dunn. We met at a small bistro near the river, the same river where my mother used to take me fishing as a kid. It's the same current that used to scare me, the same one she taught me to respect, not resist. Alexia looked tired, less guarded, more human. "Thank you for coming," she said as we sat. "I wanted to say it properly this time. I'm sorry." "You weren't the only one responsible," I replied. "No," she said, "but I helped build the environment where it could happen." She told me Karen had been acquired for less than half, its projected valuation absorbed, gutted, and dissolved into something new. "I left 2 months ago," she said. "I'm working in organizational transformation, now helping companies fix what we failed to notice." I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth had done its job. As we parted ways, she asked one final question. "Do you ever regret walking away quietly instead of making noise?" I thought about the missed headlines, the lawsuits I never filed, and the moments when my ego ached to strike back. But then I thought about my mother, the stillness in her voice the day she taught me to skip rocks. Stillness first, then power. So I looked Alexia in the eye and said, "Number, the results speak louder." And they did. 1 year after I'd been fired by email for grieving my mother, the team I led was recognized as the top-performing region at Northbridge. Employee satisfaction hit record highs. We landed 5 more accounts, 3 of them former Karen clients who had followed us not for better pricing but for better people. I wasn't just rebuilding a career. I was rebuilding trust. And then, on the anniversary of that termination, I received a package in the mail. No name, no card. Just a flat, palm-sized river stone, smoothed by time and current, with one word carved into its surface. Steady. I held it in my palm for a long time. Let the weight settle. It didn't matter who sent it. I knew what it meant. Leadership isn't measured in titles or office square footage. It's not earned in quarterly metrics or performance reviews. It's defined by how people feel when they work beside you, whether they feel seen, whether they feel safe, whether they feel like they matter. I wasn't proud because I had won. I was proud because I hadn't become like those who lost me. And that was the real victory. The greatest revenge was never burning Karen down. It was making it irrelevant. They thought they broke me when they sent that email. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that they freed me. Grief taught me what ambition never could, that no job is worth your soul, and no paycheck justifies being treated like you're replaceable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight them in court. I chose stillness. I chose strategy. And I built something better. If you're watching this video, and you've ever been blindsided, betrayed, or made to feel small for being human, remember this. Your power isn't in how loud you react. It's in what you build next. I didn't get revenge by destroying what hurt me. I got revenge by thriving without them, by lifting the people who believed in me, by creating a workplace where nobody has to choose between love and loyalty. So if you're standing at a crossroads, fired, dismissed, grieving, doubting your worth, don't beg to be let back in. Walk forward, quietly, purposefully, because the river will always rush. But if you stay steady, like the rocks, you won't just survive it. You'll shape the course of everything downstream.